It's really cold here.
Oh, really? We're having a heat wave.
Oh, geez, it's 35 degrees here, Fahrenheit. No, it's almost freezing. It's almost freezing this morning.
What is 35 Fahrenheit? What's that in real money?
Yeah, it's like maybe 1 or 2, right?
Oh, man, yeah, that is cold.
Yeah,
It's like 1.5 degrees.
yeah. For middle of May, it's really cold. This is compelling podcasting right here. Doing unit conversions in our heads, kind of based more on experience than actual math.
This is Ruminate number 20, a podcast about what's on our minds. I'm Rob Lewis, and with me is John Voorhees. Good morning, John.
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
I'm good. As we were just discussing, it's really warm here now. So, and you're getting completely the opposite, and it's freezing.
Yeah, I mean we're within a couple of degrees of it snowing actually. If it were cloudy, but it's a nice day. It's just super cold this morning.
Yeah, so I had to hunt out my shorts that I hadn't worn since last summer. So, but yeah, it's all good. I'm pretty happy with it being a bit warmer than it has been. So,
yeah, well, that's good. I mean, we've had super weird weather, lots of fog and rain. It's felt a lot like the UK probably.
That sounds about right.
It's been rainy and foggy and kind of cool, and now the weather's better, but it's just way too cold for middle of May. So do you want to dive into it?
Yeah, let's go for it. So on, I guess it was sometime this week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah, I think it was Thursday.
You did one of these little, I've been calling them mini podcasts, but you do kind of little audio recordings of you chatting about different topics on the Mac Stories Telegram, and you did the kind of the backstory of Ruminate, of how the podcast came to be.
Yeah. I we have this Telegram channel, excuse me, at Mac Stories. It's at telegram.me/Mac Stories. And what I like about Telegram, it's a lot like iMessenger or WhatsApp or something like that, but probably more like WhatsApp than iMessage, because you can put all kinds of multimedia into it, and you can have channels where it's a one-directional publishing platform, really. So it's like the behind-the-scenes channel for what's going on at Mac Stories, and it's very informal, and just me, Federico, and Graham chatting about things and saying what's going on with the website and what we're up to and that sort of thing. Federico will post pictures of his pasta even. So one of the things we can do is we can post audio snippets, and we have worked out a workflow, of course. I should say Federico has. That he and I both have been posting these short audio clips, and you can call them microcasts or podcasts or audio clips. I don't know what they are. They're anywhere from a few minutes to maybe, I think the longest one either one of us has done is maybe 10 or 12 minutes. So they're short, and they're usually something relevant to what's going on at Mac Stories. Sometimes it's an update about what's coming up in the next week, or sometimes it's something we're working on, or an app we like, or something like that. And I think it was Wednesday night, I found myself up fairly late, and I knew I wanted to do one of these soon, and I didn't have any good ideas for topics, so I just asked people on the Telegram channel to tweet me with any ideas they had. And one of the ideas I got was to talk a little bit about podcasting.
Sure. So you kind of, to be honest, I'd kind of forgotten, but you went through the story of how, I'd suggested to you we do a podcast, and, I think we were both not just you, kind of worried about how busy we'd be and if we'd have time for it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, I would normally listen to them when they, when you post them, and I was kind of listening, and I went, oh, this is about my podcast. Oh, okay, I'll kind of,
and then you said, oh, we better get ready for that next one, since we hadn't done anything yet at that point. And I was saying how we prepare, but we just prepare more like towards the end of the week before we record, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned about preparing, and I clicked on into Dropbox Paper, and we had nothing for this week.
Yeah. Yes, it's been a little slow in the news world, so that's one reason for that. And I've been kind of busy too, but as you have. But yes, so going back, I can actually add to the story, Rob, because at the beginning, so this was last summer, right? When you started like laying hints on Twitter to me that, we should do a show. I was like, yeah, we should do a show. But I didn't really feel like I had time because I just launched Blink, and I was through the summer, I was trying to integrate Apple Music, which was just awful. It took forever. It was really hard to kind of deal with both the iTunes Store and Apple Music at the same time for linking. And so that took me a good chunk of June and July to deal with that, because it came out, I guess it came out right at the end of June, so I spent most of July working on that. And I found myself in July at one point at a work event at a country club. And it was a beautiful day, and I don't play golf, and there was nothing for me to do. So I sat at a table with a pen and a field notes notebook, and the point of the story is it's nice to just have some downtime when you don't have anything to particularly do and come up with ideas. So I started thinking about what I would put in my apps and what other apps I might do and other projects I might start. And two things came out of that, sitting at this table for like a couple hours just taking notes. One was, I was like, you know what? Yes, let's do Ruminate. It wasn't called Ruminate yet, but yes, get in touch with Rob. Two was write a comprehensive article on affiliate linking, which this was July now, so that didn't actually happen until November, and there were a couple other things that kind of pushed me towards that later on. But yes, that's when that idea came up. And so two of the biggest projects I've taken on since working on Blink have been Ruminate and working at Mac Stories. And they both kind of came out of that sitting at a table on a nice sunny day at a country club where I had nothing to do.
Maybe I should, I'm going to go and find myself a country club, because I don't play golf either. I'll take a notebook and I'll see what comes out of it for me.
Yeah, no, so that was pretty good. But and then the rest of that, I was talking, my point was in doing the thing about podcasting was people talk about the gear and everything a lot, which is kind of interesting if you're doing it. But really, I wanted to try to focus on like two things. One was, the way you end up with a good podcast, I think, is either really good editing or lots of practice. And lots of practice is the way that we kind of have gone at it, I think. I mean, I think we've gotten a lot better over time. And with these short little things, I think it's helped me a lot as well. Just kind of sitting at my table in the morning and talking into a microphone with nobody around, which is kind of a weird experience, but I got used to it pretty quickly. But yeah, because for instance, the first two podcasts I was ever on, I was originally on an episode of Systematic with Brett Terpstra, and I was terrible. It was just awful. I know you've listened to it, and it was pretty rough.
I think you're being too hard on yourself, John. It wasn't that bad.
All right. But my memory of that is that it's awful, and I have never listened to it again. And then after that, I was on Inquisitive with Mike Hurley when he did the Behind the App series, and that turned out really well, in part, though, because Mike is a good editor, and he took out all the lousy bits. And then since then, it's been more a matter of just practicing, especially since when I do these short things for Telegram, the point is not to have them take a lot of time. So what I do is I just do them. If I mess up, I start over again, because they're usually only like 5 or 6 minutes. But I've gotten to the point where I don't have to do that too often. I just kind of do them and try to get them right in one take, as they say. So that's kind of what it was all about, and that's where it all came from.
Yeah, I think the practice thing is kind of, that really is the key to it, more than equipment or editing or anything else. Because I mean, our first episode is the one that wasn't released is pretty bad. And I think even the first 4 or 5 episodes, we kind of struggled even to move on to a second topic. We were kind of stopping and going, right, are you ready for the second topic? And we kind of edited around that. So even doing that can be quite difficult. So yeah, the practice tends to be certainly what I think of as kind of the most important thing.
Yeah, that's probably the downside of doing this every 2 weeks, is that as a result, it takes longer to get to the point where you've done it enough that you're more practiced. And we only did do just the one unreleased episode ever. We probably would have been better served maybe with 2 or 3, but we both wanted to get going and start it and didn't want it to kind of die on the vine. So we just dove in and figured it out as we went along, which, there's a lot to be said for that too, I think.
Yeah, but if we had done that, people would have missed out on the a burger in every slice talk. With
that's
the pizza with the burgers in the crust.
I was listening to ATP, the most recent one. Have you heard that yet?
Yeah, I have.
And they talked a lot about things like Pizza Hut, and it brought me back.
Yeah, and I'm going to state it now. I'm Team Casey. I completely agree with Casey. Just it's all fine. Just eat it all.
You got pretty mad.
We'll put a link to that episode in the show notes for people to listen. This was in the after show of this week's episode.
Yeah, it was in both like the main part of the show and the after show at some point, I think. But yeah, it was really good. And then the other thing, I guess, what I should mention is that I, of course, doing this extemporizing in this Telegram audio, I made a mistake. I insinuated, actually, I stated on the record that you and Tom Pritchard live in the same town, which you do not. And I said you both live in Plymouth when I know you live in Portsmouth. And what I was thinking was that Tom lived where you live, and that's not true.
No. It's close. I mean, certainly by American standards, we basically live next to each other in terms of distance. But yeah, it's a completely different place. But
he lives out on the pointy bit.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yes, I created a bit of a UK incident there for a while. There was a lot going on Twitter about which is better, Plymouth or Portsmouth. And I think Plymouth. Who won? Was it? I shouldn't have probably started all over again, aren't I?
Plymouth won because it kind of started that I don't think Tom's been to Portsmouth and I haven't been to Plymouth to the best of my knowledge, so we were kind of just like, well, we don't really know. And then somebody else weighed in and they said who'd actually been to both places and said Plymouth. So I was happy to concede at that point.
Tom's coming to Chicago in a couple of weeks.
He is.
Yeah, we're getting together next. I think the same day that I don't know. We're getting together in a couple of weeks, so I will ask him some questions, and then we can report back on the show.
So we've got this little note here because this seems to be a thing specifically with Snapchat, and I think some other chat apps are doing it as well. And you get these like little QR codes to kind of give people a link to your profile or to contact you in WhatsApp or Snapchat or whatever. Why do people put them in their Twitter avatars?
I don't know. I guess I was going to say I don't get it because if you're on your phone, how are you going to scan a QR code? I guess what you do is you do a screenshot and then run it through a QR app, or else you're on your computer and you scan your screen of your computer. I mean, now we're talking like two old men who don't get what the kids these days are doing, but I think they look gross.
Do you know what would be really good? Some kind of... Imagine there was like a bit of text that you could just click and it would open the app. Like, we could call it a link, John.
we actually got a better word for it. We call it a hyperlink.
Perfect. There we go. We've solved it.
It'll take us right through space, like, this internet thing. Yeah, no, I don't get it. I mean, I think they look terrible, and I'm at a loss for words. Not going to happen with me.
No, definitely not. So now that we've successfully confirmed that we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we've taken a firm stand against something we have no idea what it's even used for. So I feel good about that.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about something that maybe we do know a little bit more about. So I think maybe you saw me on Twitter kind of sending like test tweets
right.
to an unknown account or a brand new account. And this was me. I decided to kind of set up a Twitter bot to, just do various different things, like post the new XKCD comics when they come out.
And the weather. I think you got the weather there, right?
Yeah, I've got the weather for Portsmouth getting posted every morning. Just because I don't even care about the weather particularly. It's just kind of something to try out with. And I kind of started using IFTTT. Mm-hmm. For this, but they're kind of limited in what you can do. Like, you can kind of receive like a webhook from a service or something,
right.
And which will obviously give you data. But if don't give you any way to kind of parse that data and take out specific bits, you kind of it's pretty binary. It's like you've either received it or you haven't. So I decided to start playing around. I've had a Raspberry Pi sat around for a while. that I've never really used. Probably like a lot of people, I bought it because, oh look, Raspberry Pi, it's really cool. It's £25 or whatever.
Right, now what am I going to do with it now?
Exactly. I think that's like the process. That's a step-by-step. You order one, you don't know what to do with it, you just put it in a box.
Right.
And there's a few different options. There's a project called Node-RED, which was I believe it was a project by some IBM employees. And this is kind of, I think it's supposed to be like a dashboard for the Internet of Things, I think is what they call it. And it kind of, it's a little bit like IFT in that you've got kind of inputs and then outputs. So like you can kind of take input from Twitter and say send it to like a note or something. But it has some more advanced features, so you can kind of put a function between the data, so you can kind of do some different things with JavaScript or, various different rules to see what you need to do, or you can send that input to two different things. So it's kind of nice because it's basically like one line install. It's built on Node, so you just could do npm install Node-RED, I think.
Okay.
And I think some of the Raspberry Pi operating system images actually come with it pre-installed as well.
All right.
So, so it's quite nice. It's got like a nice web interface and things like that. There were a few problems I had with it. For example, like if you make some changes to I think they call it a workflow. If you make changes to a workflow, you have to redeploy that, just to basically save in the changes. But that will also rerun any other workflows you've got there. So if you're, I don't know, waiting for a new RSS feed item like I was with XKCD, it would repost that to Twitter. It doesn't have any concept of kind of what it's already seen.
Right. Yeah. So no scheduling really. I mean, not in that sense, I guess. Is that right? Or
the scheduling's not too bad, but so the issue was, so say there's there's 4 items in the XKCD RSS feed. It only ever has 4 items. So I would say, read this feed and any new items, post them. But if I restarted the Raspberry Pi and started Node-RED again, it would post those 4 again.
Right, because they're all considered new at that point.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a few problems, and they have stated that they're working on this kind of thing for restarts and saving workflows and things like that. So I thought I'd kind of take a dive into doing it myself with Python and a few different libraries. As I've used Python probably a few years ago, maybe first year of university. And it's a really nice language to use because it's got a lot of nice kind of built-in functions, and you almost write Python the way you would read it. So if I'm looking for something in a string, you just write if this is in or this in string.
Right.
So it's quite a nice language to play around with. So yeah, I've just it feels nice to use my Raspberry Pi for something.
Yeah.
And kind of Twitter was a good place to start with that. But I'm also going to look into maybe using Telegram bots to do various different things. Like I kind of want to send it an IMDb page and it make a note of that movie for me.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be really pretty cool. I've looked at the bots a little bit too. I've looked at some of the documentation, and they work pretty well. I mean, we were at one point when we were posting these audio tidbits for Mac Stories, we were using a bot that a user made for us, a reader of the site, and it would take in a WAV file, I believe, and it would convert it to it. It would upload it, convert it to an MP3, and then post it. And it was good, but it was a little inconsistent. I think it choked on large files and it mangled one file one time. So instead, we set up something entirely different using the workflow app.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of interesting the different options there are for bots now. I mean, Twitter can be a bit of a pain. Really, the ideal way is to use the stream, so you're getting direct access to a user's stream, so it will kind of instantly run. But Telegram has a lot of nice options for that, and I've kind of using it at the moment. I'm using a combination of the Raspberry Pi and some stuff on IFT, just because they've already got RSS feeds. They kind of got that down. They do remember unless it's a new feed, a new item, they won't post it and things like that.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I know we talked a little bit about different things you could use to as services to pipe things into the Twitter bot. Zapier is another possible one. That's one that I know Federico uses. The problem with it is, and to my mind, is that it's pretty expensive to get the stuff that is more advanced. I mean, they have a free tier, but the free tier is pretty limited compared to the paid tier. And I think the paid tier is something like $10 a month, maybe.
Yeah, when I looked, I think the paid tier is $20 a month. And
that's more than I thought, yeah.
And the free tier gives you 100 zaps, I think they call it, and a zap is basically any interaction with a service and Zapier. So I could maybe make that work, but I wouldn't want to hit the limit and then go, oh, well, I've either got to pay or I've got to move it somewhere else.
Yeah, it's really powerful, though, compared to, like, IFTTT. Because I know, for instance, like, you can run Python scripts and that sort of thing. Because what we're doing with the club newsletter now is that when someone fills out a Google form, it sends the data through Zapier and it kicks off a Python script that converts everything to Markdown, and then posts it into Trello.
Oh wow, yeah, that's yeah.
For instance, like it's a question, and one of there are three options: ask Federico, ask Graham, ask John, or ask the whole team. Right, there are four options. And so then what it'll do, and when it's in Trello, it'll automatically tag it with the right person and a color. And then we have a whole other thing, which is a workflow using the workflow app on iOS. You go into Trello, you click a link. It's those hyperlink things again that we were talking about before. Those newfangled links. You click it, you tap it on iOS, and it takes the question in Markdown and drops it into a text editor, pre-formatted. So all you have to do is type the answer, which is pretty cool. But it took Federico like a week to get that thing working.
Sure, yeah. I think this can obviously kind of be the problem with these things is that, they can take a while to get set up, but once they are set up, I mean, it's all kind of automated, and as you say, it sounds like you've got a pretty good workflow there for dealing with questions and things like that come in.
Yeah, it was a lot it seemed like a lot of work. I mean, I didn't do any of it myself. I just kind of watched it unfold, but it seemed like a lot of work. And but it is going to save us a ton of time going forward, especially since what we were doing before is we would have like in Slack, we would just get the emails would get dumped into Slack, and Slack doesn't do a great job of displaying emails. You don't see much of the information, so you have to tap on it, open it, read it, and then there's no good way to kind of mark them. For a while, we were like marking them with emoji. We each had our own emoji, and that was like how we decided who was doing what. And it's not good for that sort of thing. Trello's a lot better because it creates these cards, and you can drag them around from list to list, and assign them to people. And once you're finished writing something, you can put it in the finished pile, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've used Trello in the past. It's a nice service actually for that. But and on the same topic of the Raspberry Pi, I kind of I was playing around with this, and you know what it's like. You kind of get into one thing, I wonder what else I could do in this general area. And I came across a project called Magic Mirror.
Oh yeah.
And this at the core of it, this is basically just a kind of like Panic status board. You have little widgets that do various different things, so you can put them in different parts of the screen. But the way it's been built is that you can. The guys designed it so that you can put a one-way mirror over the top of it, and build yourself just a standard-looking mirror. But then you have this section of it which is like which will display this kind of status board.
Okay, so there's a computer screen behind the one-way mirror is how it works.
Yeah, exactly. So you buy yourself, some kind of monitor or small screen, depending on what size you want. And you can kind of, display weather and notes and calendar stuff. And he's built a nice, pretty nice plug-in system for kind of building your own integrations and things like that. So probably in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to just try out the actual dashboard part of it on a monitor and see if I can get something set up that I like, and then maybe I'll be buying myself a one-way mirror and a frame and And Jess will be looking at me like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, it says you're brushing your teeth and seeing the weather, right?
Exactly.
I was familiar with this because our web developer at Mac Stories, Ollie, he was I don't know that he's done it, but I think he was thinking of building one too, because he sent around there's a YouTube video demonstrating this somewhere. Have you seen that? Because it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I had definitely seen it originally, probably a few months ago, I think, when the guy released it.
Yeah, that's what I had seen, and when you mentioned that you were thinking about doing a Magic Mirror, that's what I immediately thought about, because it looked pretty cool. We have a couple of Raspberry Pis here, and it's a little bit like you said. I mean, we have them and they've been sitting in a box. Not entirely true. My kids have done various things with them at different times. I'm not even sure exactly what, but I haven't really ever dived into it myself.
No, it's kind of funny because I've only just got it out after having it for a couple of years. And then I found myself on an online store. There's a store in the UK called Pi Hut. And I'm looking at other Raspberry Pis and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? I haven't even got this one doing anything. Yeah, I should probably wait until I buy another one.
Yeah, those really small ones. What are those new small ones called that have the Wi-Fi built into them? Those have been really hard to get I think, because they've sold out.
The Pi Zero. There was a reason for that, actually. They stopped production for a while to continue to ramp up production of the Raspberry Pi 3. But I think they announced this week that they've kind of upgraded the Zero a little bit. So those will be shipping out soon. They will be available again, probably in the next couple of weeks, I think.
I assume the 3 is kind of a bigger model with a little bit more capability than the Zero?
Yeah, so the Zero is kind of a tiny one, and all the adapters are like the micro version of everything. So you've got like micro HDMI and kind of micro USB, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But the Pi 3 is basically the same size as all the other Raspberry Pis, but I think it's a quad core processor they've got in it now.
Wow.
I think it's got 4 USB ports, built-in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. So yeah, it's definitely a significantly more powerful computer, and it's still in the £25 or £30 range.
Yeah, I've heard people use them a lot for things like media servers, that they'll work with that. I don't even know. I suppose you can use Plex with it, maybe?
Yeah, I have. I think I remember when I first got mine, I tried out, I think it was Xbox Media Center, the software.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And it was okay, but it kind of choked on some bigger files, because I just don't think it's really powerful enough for streaming those. But yeah, I mean, it definitely can be used. I mean, it's significantly cheaper than like a Mac Mini, for example, to use as a server.
Yes. But
it really depends on your use case and if you're willing to get it set up in the first place. Because the software can get pretty fiddly at times with the combination of the operating system and maybe it's Python or Node or whatever else they've built it on. It can get a bit weird.
Yeah, they do a pretty neat kit that you can get from a company called Kano, Kano, that comes with a little keyboard and an enclosure for the Raspberry Pi and a bunch of pre-installed, its own kind of pre-installed version of Linux with its own skin on it that makes it a little more user-friendly, and it's designed for kids to learn coding and things like that. And my youngest has that, and it's pretty neat. It works pretty well.
Yeah, there's some really nice, all of those components really, like cases and software. There's some really nice stuff out there. But again, I found myself looking at it, and I really thought I should probably do something with this one before I start buying another one.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I think that's probably about it on the Raspberry Pi.
I think so.
It was kind of a fun little adventure into seeing what's available for the Raspberry Pi at the moment.
Yeah, no, I like the Raspberry Pi. I think it's the things you can do with it are really only limited by your imagination. It's so well done and open source that you can, and now it's got such a big community behind it that you can find projects all over the place to try out.
Yeah, definitely.
So the other thing I thought maybe we could talk about briefly, because this has already been, I think this horse is starting to get to the point where it's been beaten to death. But, of course, I think it was a week ago yesterday, so 2 Saturdays ago, there was an article in the New York Times about podcasting that was just all kinds of awful, mainly because I think large portions of it were just completely inaccurate as to how the technology works and what really goes on with podcasting as between podcasters and Apple.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you say, I think it's been discussed at length in a couple of places. Upgrade and ATP were a couple of good places, and Marco and Federico both wrote about it as well. So we'll link to those. But I think the biggest problem with this article, more than anything else, because to some extent I can understand these bigger podcasters going, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we could, treat it like the web and get more money and get 100 million downloads or whatever." The biggest problem, this whole article just seems to be just written by somebody who doesn't understand what Apple do in terms of podcasting.
Right.
They have a directory. That is it. It's no different to Marco's directory that he has in Overcast. It's no different to the Pocket Cast directory. It's basically just a database of RSS feeds.
Right.
They're really not doing a lot else beyond kind of, obviously they have ratings and the charts that they do. That's only based on their directory.
Right.
So you could be number one in iTunes, but you might not be number one in Overcast or Pocket Cast, depending on what kind of show you've got.
Right, and you can have a show and not even put it on iTunes if you don't want to. I mean, because it's not necessary. It would be silly not to, mainly because that's where most people get them. But you don't have to be on iTunes. No,
and I mean, if you look at our statistics for this show, we have not a huge amount of people using the official podcast app. I mean, a lot of our downloads come through Overcast, and I think Mike said the same thing on Upgrade. He sees kind of 50% or 40 or 50% are using Overcast, and then the other 50% is kind of just split up between all the other podcast apps.
Yep, that's true. We've got it around. I looked actually recently. I think I looked a day or two ago, and I think we've got about 55% coming from Overcast and about 9% coming through the official iTunes iOS app.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not necessarily a good data point for everyone, because obviously, this is kind of a tech focused podcast to a certain extent, and a lot of Mike shows are the same on Relay, but it still kind of shows that there's a massive market that just aren't really that interested in what Apple are doing with podcasts.
Yeah, no, it definitely, those kind of numbers, they vary pretty widely depending on the type of show and where you're getting your audience from. I've talked to a lot of people who have different numbers, but especially if you're kind of more tech related podcasts, that those it's not unusual to have a large portion coming through something like Overcast as opposed to the iTunes iTunes podcast app.
Yeah, and there was a couple of other bits in this article. I think there was a line in it that said Apple refused to allow for paid podcasts, and I mean, again, this kind of comes back to the fact that all they do is run a directory. They're not really doing anything.
Yeah, well, what really bugs me about it, and I'm kind of suspicious of these big players, because it strikes me that these are people coming from radio, and radio is inherently constrained by how many people can get into it because of one, radio waves and licensing and all that kind of thing. You can only have so many radio stations, and seems to me they dropped themselves into podcasting and realized that they were in the Wild West where anybody and their brother could make a podcast. Guys like you and me can make a podcast. There's virtually no cost to it. And that on some level, I wonder whether this is the first step in trying to restrict who can get into podcasting. In other words, make Apple a gatekeeper so it's harder for other people to get into it.
Yeah, I definitely think that's probably likely. I've kind of seen this thing before, with podcasts, but like you say, you do see the same thing where the big players, they don't like it that the smaller players, like you say, like me and you, we can just make a podcast, and as you say, the cost it's pretty low for us, but we could probably make it cheaper. There are free ways to host a podcast.
Right.
Depending on what you want to get out of it, but they don't want that. They want, essentially they want like a podcasting license. Like, here you go, you can have a license, you're allowed to make podcasts now.
Well, and I think it's kind of naive for them to think that if in fact that is the intent, I think it's a little naive for them to think that that's even a possibility, because I don't think Apple has demonstrated any tendencies that direction at all. I mean, I look at the App Store, And in the App Store, they are absolutely a gatekeeper, but they keep the barrier to entry really low. Yes, you've got to pay over the 30%, but what I'm talking about is the fact that to have a developer account, you don't have to pay anything until you put something on the store, and then you only have to pay $100. There have been people who have proposed in the past that if you wanted, kind of the white glove treatment from Apple as a developer, there should be a developer account that's like a premium platinum account that costs, I don't know, $1,000 or $5,000, and you would get expedited review and lots of extra support calls and all that sort of thing. But Apple's never done that. They've kept at least in terms of getting on the store in the first place, they've kept the playing field really level for anybody from, hobbyists on up to the big boys like Adobe or EA or whoever.
Yeah, definitely. And they've even been trying to make that easier for people now, because I think it was with iOS 9 or around that time, you're now allowed to load apps that you've developed onto your iPhone without having a paid developer account, which I think previously you couldn't do.
Yeah, no, originally all you could do is run iOS apps in the simulator, and that once you wanted to go beyond the simulator, that's when you had to pay your $100. So they kind of moved that entry point back to the point where you don't have to have an account until you're actually submitting to the store for sale or download if it's a free app.
Sure. I don't think we shouldn't go any deeper into this, because I think it's been pretty well covered in Upgrade and ATP. But we'll put links in the show notes to those, because they were both really interesting shows. Definitely to hear from the two different points of view.
Yeah, definitely from the
shows.
Yeah, exactly, because you get kind of the perspective not only of people who are making podcasts like Jason Snell and Mike and the ATP guys, but also Marco Arman, who makes an app himself. So it's a good spectrum of points of view, I think.
Cool. Talking of barrier to entry to the store and app review and things like that, you're preparing to launch Associate this week, right?
Yeah, definitely. This is an Amazon affiliate linking app, just kind of leveraging off of the success of Blink and the code that's in Blink, and bringing the similar type of app to the Amazon program. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I think launches are always exciting, but they're also kind of exhausting, and there are parts of them that are awful. And I've kind of been through all of that in the last 5 or 6 days, starting last Friday when I tweeted out just a small image of the icon next to the Blink icon, and it really took off more than I expected on Twitter. And I wasn't really planning to start working on the launch yet, but I was kind of thrown in the midst of a lot of interest, so I very quickly got up a splash page and kind of activated the dormant Twitter account and did a bunch of things last weekend to get ready, put together a press kit, did all that stuff to get ready for the launch, which is actually going to be on Tuesday the 17th.
Cool. So, I mean, I guess I kind of know the answer to this, but why is the affiliate, the Amazon affiliate section, why is this not just part of Blink? Why did you not add it into Blink rather than making its own app?
Yeah, I guess it's a couple of things. One, it's money, and to be honest, I mean, two apps is better than one in terms of making money. And I believe that it's a worthwhile added feature that I think is worth paying for. So that's one reason it's a separate app. But it's also a separate app fundamentally, and I don't think even if I weren't asking for money for a separate app for Associate, it would still probably be a separate app, because the UI would just have to be completely redesigned on Blink to make this work, because Blink was designed with iTunes in mind. So there are sections that make sense for the different kinds of media that are sold by iTunes, and Amazon is completely different in terms of the breadth and depth of what they sell, but also their APIs are very restrictive as to what you can do in terms of searching Amazon. So it wouldn't be, there's no way to make it work the same way that Blink works, because Apple's a lot more open with its APIs.
Sure, yes, because I guess that's interesting, because Amazon are pretty, as you say, they're pretty restrictive on their APIs, and even with their affiliate linking, even just to get an affiliate account, you need a lot of proof that that you're actually going to use it. They're nowhere near as kind of easy as it is to get an iTunes affiliate account.
Yeah, and with their search API on Amazon, they won't let you use it unless you make an Android app for their store, for their Amazon Android store. Not even just general Google Play. It has to be Amazon's version of the Android store. So, so that's kind of a non-starter, really. I mean, 'cause I emailed them about it, and there was maybe a chance if I did an Android version and an iOS version that maybe, but they weren't very non-committal about it, and we came up with a way to do search without using their API, which is Safari View Controller, which lets you kick off a search on the Amazon website, gets back the results, and none of the links in those search results work, except that when you tap on the result that you want, it'll then turn it into an affiliate link. So it was kind of a clever workaround, I think.
Yeah, I was quite because you sent me the beta for this. God, whenever it was that you kind of sent out the first beta, and yeah, it's an interesting way of getting around the API limits. And I've been testing it, and it works really well.
Yeah, I mean, what it's doing is when you tap on one of those results, is it's yanking the ASIN out of it. AISN, I think it is. It's basically the serial number for the object that's sold on Amazon. It pulls that out, and then it uses that to create an affiliate link with your credentials. And this app, by the way, this is more of a Scrivener team app, because this one was completely coded by my son Owen, who's 18. He did all the development on it. I mean, I was kind of there, like at the beginning, talking to him about things like what it would do and how we could do it, and that very clever Safari View Controller feature was really, I have to give a lot of credit to Mike Hurley, who suggested that, because originally this app wasn't going to have search in it at all, because there was just no way to use the search API. But Owen did a real good job coming up with a solution based on Mike's idea. And so it does have search, and it also has an extension. So you can convert links that you find directly in the Amazon app or on the web through Safari, or wherever you find a share sheet that lets you, grab a URL.
Yeah, that's great. So basically, Owen built it, and you're just you're the sales guy on the internet, just try to peddle your wares.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, so I'm doing just all the marketing stuff. So I was like little bit of product development at the front end, and now just doing the marketing. And it's been busy because, like I said, I got a little. First of all, I knew that the app review times were getting shorter and shorter from what I'd seen from other developers, but I guess I didn't quite believe it yet. You saw some articles probably this week about this. I mean, I think Bloomberg even had an article about it, about how the app review times are down to 24 hours about. But at the time that we submitted this, I guess it was 2 weekends ago, I'd seen a handful of people say that, but it wasn't clear that was how broad-based it was. But it got approved in about 36 hours. And so we decided to launch it on the 17th, just to give us some time to contact media and to prepare the website and do all the other things. And since I've got other stuff going on, I needed a little time. I think I probably could have launched it Wednesday or Thursday of this past week, but to be safe, just kind of kicked it into next week. So I'm hoping it'll be a slow news day and everybody will go buy it.
Yeah, hopefully Apple don't drop a new MacBook or something. Then.
Yeah, no, I doubt we're going to see anything from Apple at this point. So that's good, because we're so close to WWDC now. But it's going to be $5, just like Blink. And we're actually going to do a bundle too. That'll be $8 for the two. But you can't set up a bundle until an app is live on the store, so the bundle might not be live immediately. It might take a little while to get that up and running.
Okay, I don't think I've ever bought a bundle, but that will. So I already own Blink. Will that give me some kind of discount on the bundle, or to kind of charge me for just the difference or something?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have no idea.
Who knows?
I don't want to say, because I have no idea.
It's the mystery of the App Store.
Yeah, I haven't really bought a lot of bundles myself, but I figured, why not? I mean, this way, if someone has been on the fence about Blink, they can maybe get the two of them for, an extra couple of dollars off.
I'll tell you what then, John, when the bundle's live, I'll let you know what happens.
All right. Yeah, it's been a while since I've looked at how bundles work. I think you can actually I'm trying to I think you can actually do affiliate links for bundles, but it's not supported officially by Apple. So
yeah, I haven't. To be honest, with the bundles, I remember when they kind of announced those. I haven't seen a huge amount of bundles, even on the store at all.
Yeah, it's quieted down, and I don't think Apple's really promoting them. But if for instance, if you go to OmniFocus and you click on just the link to Omni Group, so you see all of their apps, then you'll see the bundles and that kind of. But you're not. For the most part, I don't remember the last time I saw a bundle on like the first page of the store in any kind of featured section or anything like that.
No, I remember there being some problems when they launched. With kind of depending on if I'd kind of maybe paid a higher price for one of the bundled apps, and then I go to buy a bundle, but it's actually cheaper than what I paid. Possibly, like, there was some weirdness with that. But yeah, I'm more than happy to let you know what happens when I try and buy affiliate.
I think that those issues work themselves out. What I'd like to see bundles that are across platforms, so you can buy OmniFocus for the Mac and OmniFocus for iOS for one price, that kind of thing.
That would be really nice. It's always one of the things, I kind of, maybe if I look at to-do apps as a good example, and I'm like, okay, great, so the iOS one is $10 or something. I'm like, all right, okay, I've got the Mac app now, and of course there's no way if I'm on my phone, I can't look at Mac apps on the Mac App Store. Let's not even get into that. But so, yeah.
Unless you're in Blink, you can do it in Blink.
Oh, I know I can do it in Blink, and I do, because it's the only place you can do it.
It's a little more limited information, but it makes it faster to do the searches. So,
well, it's not limited. At least I can see the price.
Yes, you can, and you can see the description. So you've got that going for you.
Yeah. So. Well, okay, so yeah, a couple of days and that'll be out. I'm sure we'll both be tweeting about it. And I'll make sure to tweet about it from the Ruminate account as well. If we remember, we'll put a link in the show notes if you're listening to this after the 17th.
Yes, I have the link. I have the link already. It just takes you nowhere right now.
Okay, well, we can maybe just put that in there. So,
so Monday we can send a lot of people to unavailable on the store. Errors for 24 hours.
Yeah. Excellent. Is there anything else you wanted to add on Associate?
I don't think so.
No. Excellent. Okay, so I think we covered everything for this week. As I said, we're both on Twitter. I am at RMLewisUK. John, you're at John Voorhees, JohnVoorhees. I got that right.
Very good.
There we go. And the show notes are at ruminatepodcast.com/20.
Ooh, all the way up to 20 now.
All the way. Our podcast is nearly old enough to drink in America.
That's good. Yeah, we'll have to do something. We'll have to have an early morning cocktail then.
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Speak to you later, John.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.